Welcome back to Transfer Talk. We've had some fairly interesting stories regarding Manchester United in the last half an hour or so. Let's get live to Old Trafford right now to speak to our senior reporter, Melissa Reddy, who very much has her ear to the ground in Manchester United in terms of the team there. First of all, Melissa, obviously the question is Marcus Rashford. How will this month play out? Do you think that he will be at the club come February the 3rd?
The ideal situation would be if Marcus Rashford lands a permanent transfer somewhere. The player has said he's open to a move. It's quite clear that Ruben Amorim hasn't seen what he wants from Rashford on the pitch or off it, and Manchester United are in a sell to buy position, so that would work across all fronts. However, that solution is very far off given the financial parameters involved in doing such a deal. Now, colleagues from Sky Italy are reporting that Milan, they're having discussions whether a loan move would be possible and plausible for Rashford, but that would largely depend on how much of his salary United would still cover. Now, given the fact that Rafael Leao is set to return from injury and he's stationed on Rashford's favoured left side, it's not concrete that Milan will turn what is currently a consideration into actual action. But in terms of Rashford, it's quite clear that it's not working out for him as things stand. It would be in his best interest to move away. How that works either on a temporary basis or on a long-term situation is going to require a lot of contorting from United's end.
You mentioned sell to buy there. So if Rashford goes, or if he departs even on loan, will Ruben Amorim then be able to buy?
That's part of the reason why a permanent transfer would be so good for Manchester United, because as an academy product, Marcus Rashford would be banked as pure profit and they could reinvest all the funds of the sale back into the team. Now, if a loan move is secured and a large portion of his wages is taken off the books, that would also be quite helpful. What was interesting was to hear how Ruben Amorim actually switched his tone about the transfer window last week. On Monday, he was telling us there's no point looking at the window for solutions for Manchester United given their position of needing to sell to buy. But by Friday, he was saying to us that United do have their eyes open in the market and they will try to do something. Now, he didn't want to give away which positions the club are looking at, but we know that wing back, and specifically on the left side, that is a priority area for them to solve. I mentioned Nuno Mendes from PSG last week, that the club really like him. What I'm also told is there's a need to inject a directness into the squad, more aggression through a more dynamic profile. So somebody who gives you technical quality and speed, strength in the duels, specifically in that midfield area. So I think United are trying to see how they maneuver what is going to be quite a constricted market with their limited funds. They're trying to do something clever and something helpful for Ruben Amorim.
OK, then what about other outgoings then, potentially? We mentioned Joshua Zirkzee before we got into you.
Yeah, Juventus, they're interested in taking Joshua Zirkzee on loan, but neither the player nor the club have engaged with that interest at all. I'm told that Zirkzee wants to stay and fight for his place at United, that Amorim's been happy with him. The way he conducts himself around the place is really good, hugely professional. So far, nothing has changed on that end. Now, United are open to both loan and permanent transfers for a number of players who don't feature in the club's long-term planning now. Those include the players out of contract like Victor Lindelof, Christian Eriksen, Tom Heaton, but it extends also to players like Casemiro and Antony, suitable offers for them would be considered. And then when you look wider into the squad, there are players there that they may feel themselves they'd want to move on. They feel that they've done all they can at United. The club very much willing to engage suitors because they know in order to reach the next level under Amorim and create the squad more in his image, there has to be outgoings to facilitate all the incomings.
Great stuff. Thanks very much for the update, Melissa. Right, so a few things to discuss there, but let's talk about Marcus Rashford. First of all, with the news that AC Milan are discussing internally whether to make a proper move for Rashford. Do you think it would be a good fit?
I'd share Melissa's concern, actually, about the fact that Rafael Leao is pretty much a lock for that left-hand side, you would think. The change has been, of course, that Sergio Conceição has come in as coach and replaced Paulo Fonseca. Paulo Fonseca and Rafael Leao weren't getting on particularly well. Leao was dropped a couple of times, has just come back from injury, but he's one of their absolute key players if they can get him fit and firing. So where does Rashford then fit? Do they need him through the middle? Well, they've got some quality through the middle already. So I can see why they'd look to add him as part of the squad, but would he be a lock for the first team? No. So does that suit him? Then there's the financial implication as well. I think Napoli have been linked with him. Antonio Conte believed to be driving that because he wants options, because they're very much in the title race, Napoli. They went top recently again. They're up against Atalanta, they're up against Inter. And Conte, we've seen him bring in Scott McTominay to great effect. He was brilliant recently. They won 3-0 at Fiorentina. He scored, got man of the match. He's been exceptional. So there's a link there, of course. McTominay could say, you know, how well it's going in Naples. So I think there'll be interest in him, but the finance is a big deal. And is he prepared to fight for a place wherever he goes and not be an automatic first 11 player?
There's a lot of interesting stuff that we've heard about Man United in the last few minutes. You know, for example, Antony is apparently attracting interest from clubs in Greece and Spain, and also that Joshua Zirkzee, as we heard there, Juventus are interested in taking him on loan. So are a number of other Italian clubs and possibly even some Premier League clubs. What do you make of all of that, Flex? I mean, he's only been there for a handful of months. He hasn't really been able to show what he can do. What's your reaction to that news?
Yeah, it's been a really difficult start to life at Manchester United for Joshua Zirkzee. I think we can all see that and acknowledge that. He will acknowledge that as well. He's coming into a new league, into a team that has been massively struggling and has changed managers very, very quickly as well. He's bought for one system under one manager. Ruben Amorim comes in after a few months and has a completely different set of ideologies that he wants the players to take to. And Joshua Zirkzee hadn't even got comfortable in Erik ten Hag's system, or lack of at the time. So it's been really, really difficult for him. He's had some tough moments, and, you know, it wasn't great what happened at Old Trafford, when there was a mixed reception for him against Newcastle. But since then, the fans have seemed to got behind him and been galvanise him. And it's good to see him, or from what we're hearing from the reports anyway, that he wants to stay and fight for his place and stay and see what this looks like. Now, you know, from what I've seen, he looks like he struggled with a little bit of the pace of the Premier League, to get up to speed with it and to get his best attributes to the forefront. But Manchester United, look at the team. The team's been ever-changing. The team has been absolutely, you know, in a terrible bit of form where nobody's looked good. So I also think that Ineos are quite ruthless as well, though. And if the right offer came in on a permanent, maybe financially they would want to maybe get Ruben Amorim something that maybe suits his system more. However, if Ruben Amorim's happy to have him and it's very, very early on, I think you need to give him at least a full season from here on out anyway to see how that pans out. So I'm a little bit surprised to hear that it could have been a move, but I'm not surprised to hear that it's in Serie A. You know, we've done so well at Bologna.
Yeah.
Really, really, really well tipped to come here and do well in the Premier League. Hasn't happened. So to hear the host of Italian teams interested in him, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, Juventus are interested in signing Joshua Zirkzee on loan. Inter Napoli, AC Milan also interested, and some Premier League clubs. However, we should stress that Zirkzee has no interest in leaving. He loves the club. He's determined to prove himself in the Premier League. So we'll keep you updated on that one.